The silence of deep space erupted with a violent quantum distortion that sent shockwaves through alien sensor arrays. Where moments before there was nothing, now hummed the THS Defiance, a warship that looked less like a vessel and more like a predatory beast frozen in metallic stillness. Captain Michael Armstrong stood motionless, his reflection barely visible in the bridge's quantum reactive view screen. 38 years of military service had etched every experience into the lines of his face, a topography of battles fought, challenges overcome, and impossible odds conquered. Around him, the bridge crew moved with a synchronicity that spoke of countless hours of training, of bonds forged in the crucible of deep space exploration and conflict. Lieutenant Commander Elena Rodriguez, his second in command, studied the holographic tactical display with laser-focused intensity. Her fingers danced across multiple quantum interfaces, each movement releasing cascades of data that rippled through the ship's advanced neural network. The Defiance was more than a mere vessel. It was a living system that responded to human intuition with preternatural speed. "Quantum stabilization complete," announced Senior Systems Analyst Jack Harper from his station. "Hull integrity at maximum. Stealth systems are maintaining zero-point energy signature." Armstrong knew the significance of their arrival. This wasn't just a military mission. It was a statement. Humanity had spent decades preparing for this moment, developing technologies that defied the comprehension of the Galactic Concordance. Every system on the Defiance represented a quantum leap beyond conventional understanding. The ship's hull was a marvel of human engineering, metamaterial layers that could shift molecular structure in milliseconds, absorbing and redistributing energy in ways that made traditional shields look like primitive armor. Quantum-entangled communication systems could transmit information faster than light, penetrating any known jamming technology. Adaptive camouflage algorithms allowed the ship to blend into the cosmic background radiation, invisible until the moment of choosing. Beneath the technological marvel, there was a deeper story. The Defiance carried the hopes of a species that had clawed its way from planetary conflicts to interstellar potential. Humanity's history was written in blood, innovation, and an unbreakable spirit of adaptation. Where other species saw limitations, humans saw challenges to be systematically dismantled. Scanning local space, Rodriguez reported, her voice calm and clinical. "Multiple concordance sensor nets detected. They're attempting to categorize our technological signature, but their systems are struggling." Armstrong allowed himself a slight smile. The human technological approach was fundamentally different from the Concordance's methodical, consensus-driven innovation. Where alien civilizations sought harmony and incremental progress, humanity embraced chaos, rapid iteration, and transformative leaps. The bridge crew represented a microcosm of human potential. Jack Harper, a quantum systems expert who had redesigned entire communication protocols. Rodriguez, a tactical genius who had developed new predictive combat algorithms. Marcus Chen, the ship's primary engineer, who could rebuild entire system networks during active combat. Each crew member carried stories of overcoming impossible odds. Harper had survived the Proxima Colony incident, where human settlers transformed a barely habitable moon into a thriving outpost through sheer determination. Rodriguez's family had fled environmental collapse on Earth, rebuilding their lives through technological innovation. Chen's ancestors had transformed agricultural technologies to feed billions during global climate challenges. Preliminary contact protocols are ready, Marcus Chen announced from his engineering station. "We can overwhelm or infiltrate their communication networks at will." The embedded data packets are designed to reveal just enough to provoke maximum psychological impact. The ship's quantum computer, an AI system that walked the line between machine intelligence and human creativity, began processing potential communication scenarios. It wasn't just calculating, it was strategizing, understanding the psychological warfare inherent in first contact. Armstrong stepped forward, his reflection merging with the holographic displays. Decades of military strategy, diplomatic maneuvering, and technological development had led to this moment. The Defiance was more than a warship. It was a declaration. Humanity had arrived, and the galaxy would never be the same. "Prepare initial communication sequence," he commanded. "Let's show them exactly who we are." The universe held its breath, unaware that everything was about to change. The Concordance diplomatic vessel approached with a grace that spoke of millennia of refined interstellar protocol. Its sleek design was a testament to centuries of peaceful expansion. Smooth, predictable, utterly certain of its place in the galactic hierarchy. Commander Zixarak, a senior diplomatic envoy whose career had spanned 3 generations, prepared what he believed would be a standard introductory communication. Inside the vessel's communication chamber, holographic interfaces hummed with anticipation. Zixarak's translucent tendrils, a biological communication array that had negotiated with dozens of emerging species, moved with practiced precision. His species had perfected the art of first contact, reducing it to a carefully choreographed dance of diplomatic nuance. Unidentified vessel, Zixarak began, his multitonal voice modulated to project calm and authority. "You have entered Concordance protected space. Identify your origin and state your purpose. Compliance with established first contact protocols is mandatory." The response was instantaneous, but not what any Concordance protocol had ever anticipated. "Concordance Command, this is Captain Michael Armstrong of the Terran Hegemony Starship Defiance. We are not here to negotiate our existence or seek your permission. We are here to demonstrate capabilities you cannot yet comprehend." The transmission carried something far more dangerous than words: embedded data packets that began systematically probing and analyzing the Concordance's communication networks. Each packet was a precision-crafted piece of technological warfare, revealing just enough to terrify without showing all of humanity's capabilities. Zixarak's communication interfaces began to malfunction. Data streams he'd never encountered before began flooding his systems, not as an attack, but as a surgical information insertion. Historical records, technological schematics, computational models that seemed to rewrite fundamental understanding of physics and communication appeared with terrifying speed. Lieutenant Commander Elena Rodriguez managed the communication from the Defiance's bridge with clinical precision. Each data packet was a weapon, not of destruction, but of psychological impact. They weren't just sending information. They were fundamentally challenging the Concordance's understanding of technological possibility. The embedded data began to tell a story. Humanity's technological development wasn't a linear progression, but an explosive, chaotic journey of continuous reinvention. Where the Concordance saw stability, humans saw an opportunity for transformation. Agricultural collapse, environmental challenges, planetary conflicts, each had been transformed into a catalyst for innovation. Jack Harper, monitoring the communication systems, allowed himself a slight smile. The data packets were designed to do more than communicate. They were a deliberate psychological strategy. Each piece of information was carefully curated to demonstrate human potential while simultaneously undermining the Concordance's sense of technological superiority. Medical records showed human adaptation to extreme environments. Engineering schematics revealed technologies that seemed to dance on the edge of physical possibility. Economic models demonstrated a species that could transform economic challenges into technological breakthroughs with terrifying speed. Inside the Concordance vessel, junior communication analysts began to panic. Their systems, designed to categorize and manage information with clinical precision, were struggling to process the sheer volume and complexity of the human data transmission. "The transmission defies our communication models," one analyst whispered, tendrils trembling. "It's not just information. It's a complete recategorization of technological understanding." Zixarak understood something profound was happening. This wasn't a standard first contact scenario. This was a fundamental challenge to the Concordance's understanding of technological and cultural development. The human transmission continued, a relentless flow of information that was simultaneously an invitation and a challenge. Marcus Chen had designed the communication protocols to be both elegant and brutal, a technological handshake that was also a declaration of human potential. Embedded within the data were subtle markers that suggested this was merely a glimpse of human capability. Quantum communication models that suggested faster-than-light information transfer. Adaptive technology frameworks that could fundamentally reshape matter at the molecular level. Predictive algorithms that could model complex systems with unprecedented accuracy. We are presenting ourselves, the transmission seemed to say, not as a species seeking permission, but as a force of technological and cultural transformation. The Concordance's carefully maintained facade of galactic stability began to crack. This wasn't just a new species entering their domain. This was a fundamental challenge to everything they understood about technological and cultural development. Captain Armstrong's final embedded message was clear and uncompromising. We are here. We are ready. The galaxy will adapt. The universe paused, processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. Dr. Rachel Henderson's hands trembled as she analyzed the initial scans of the Terran vessel. The Concordance's primary research facility, a massive orbital complex that had cataloged technological developments for millennia, suddenly felt impossibly small and antiquated. "This is impossible," she muttered, her neural interface struggling to process the data streams flooding her consciousness. The ship's technological signature defied every established scientific principle. Each system seemed to operate on principles that didn't just push the boundaries of known physics, they obliterated those boundaries entirely. The hull was a nightmare of quantum complexity. Metamaterial layers shifted at the molecular level, creating a defensive system that was less a shield and more a living, adaptive organism. Where traditional alien designs created rigid protective barriers, the Terran vessel's hull could literally reshape itself in milliseconds, redistributing energy, healing microscopic damage, and anticipating potential threats before they fully materialized. Dr. Marcus Williams, Henderson's colleague and lead quantum systems analyst, worked frantically at a holographic interface. His specialized sensory implants, which had mapped technological developments across hundreds of alien civilizations, were overloading with the sheer complexity of human technology. The propulsion system, Williams reported, his voice a mixture of terror and scientific excitement. It's not just moving through space, it's manipulating space-time itself. Look at these quantum entanglement signatures. They're rewriting fundamental understanding of motion and energy transfer. The Defiance's technological systems told a story far more complex than mere engineering. Each component was a testament to a fundamentally different approach to technological development. Where the Concordance sought consensus, harmony, and incremental progress, human technology embraced chaos, rapid iteration, and transformative leaps. Weapon systems were particularly terrifying. Traditional Concordance defensive technologies relied on energy dissipation, predictive shielding, and consensus-driven defensive strategies. The human approach was fundamentally different. Adaptive systems that could predict, counter, and neutralize threats before they fully formed. A team of senior researchers gathered around Henderson, their neural interfaces struggling to process the incoming data. The ship's communication systems alone represented a quantum leap beyond anything in Concordance archives. Quantum-entangled communication networks that could transmit information faster than light, penetrate any known jamming technology, and adapt in real time to communication challenges. "It's like they've been fighting a different kind of technological war," whispered Dr. Elena Kovacs, a xenotechnological historian. "Every system is designed not just for function, but for continuous adaptation and improvement." The medical technologies were equally shocking. Embedded within the ship's systems were medical nanonetworks that could potentially repair cellular damage, adapt to unknown biological threats, and fundamentally reshape biological systems. It wasn't just technology, it was a complete reimagining of the relationship between biological and technological systems. Jack Rodriguez, a senior analysis coordinator, pulled up comparative technological development charts. Human technological progression was nothing like the smooth, predictable curves of other species. Their development was explosive, chaotic, a series of revolutionary leaps that seemed to emerge from constant challenge and conflict. Look at their environmental adaptation technologies, Rodriguez pointed out. Where we create stable, consensus-driven solutions, they develop technologies that transform challenges into opportunities. Agricultural collapse becomes a catalyst for molecular-level food production systems. Planetary environmental challenges drive the development of terraforming technologies that rewrite planetary ecosystems. The research team watched in collective shock as more data streamed in. The Terran vessel wasn't just a technological marvel. It was a living testament to a species that viewed limitations as temporary obstacles to be systematically dismantled. Dr. Henderson understood something profound was happening. This wasn't just a new technological discovery. This was a fundamental challenge to everything the Concordance understood about technological development, species progression, and the very nature of innovation. They didn't just develop technology, she whispered, her neural interfaces struggling to process the implications. They transformed their entire approach to existence. The universe of established scientific understanding trembled, preparing for a fundamental transformation. Admiral Krelvax of the Concordance Patrol Fleet approached the unknown vessel with calculated confidence. His squadron represented the pinnacle of galactic defensive technology. 12 advanced warships arranged in a precision formation that had maintained peace for generations. Each vessel was a marvel of defensive engineering, equipped with energy dissipation shields, quantum tracking systems, and adaptive combat protocols developed over centuries of interstellar conflict management. Unidentified vessel, Krelvax transmitted, his multi-tonal communication erased vibrating with authoritative resonance. You are entering restricted space. Prepare to be escorted to the nearest Concordance processing station for immediate review and potential quarantine. The response was nothing like what any Concordance protocol had ever anticipated. Captain Michael Armstrong's voice cut through their communication systems with surgical precision. Negative. We are conducting an operational demonstration. Before the Admiral could process the statement, the first wave of technological warfare began. It wasn't an attack in any traditional sense. The Defiance didn't fire a single destructive weapon. Instead, it unleashed a cascading network of quantum adaptive signal disruptions that began to systematically neutralize each patrol ship's systems with terrifying efficiency. Energy shields didn't collapse. They were systematically reprogrammed. Weapon systems didn't fail. They were rewritten at the quantum computational level. Propulsion drives didn't shut down. They were transformed into complex puzzles that the ship's own systems couldn't solve. Lieutenant Commander Elena Rodriguez managed the technological assault with the precision of a surgeon. Each disruption was calculated, each system intervention a masterpiece of technological warfare that demonstrated power through control rather than destruction. Communication networks isolated, she reported calmly. Defensive systems reconfigured, no physical damage sustained. The Concordance patrol ships drifted, their crews experiencing a collective moment of absolute technological helplessness. Their most advanced systems, developed over generations of careful technological progression, were being manipulated like children's toys. Jack Harper, the ship's senior systems analyst, monitored the technological intervention with clinical detachment. Quantum entanglement communication networks are being used to essentially rewrite their operational protocols, he explained to the bridge crew. We're not just jamming their systems, we're fundamentally restructuring their technological understanding. Marcus Chen added a critical observation. Watch how the disruption cascades. We're not just stopping their current operations, we're demonstrating the potential for complete technological control. Inside the Concordance vessels, senior officers watched in growing terror. Their ships weren't being destroyed. They were being comprehensively dominated. Each system was being systematically neutralized, with a level of precision that suggested total destruction was always possible, but deliberately avoided. Admiral Krelvax's communication attempts became increasingly desperate. What is the meaning of this? What technology are you using? Captain Armstrong's response was chillingly calm. A demonstration of restraint, not weakness. The entire encounter lasted 7 minutes and 17 seconds. When it concluded, not a single Concordance vessel had been physically damaged. But everything had changed. The technological intervention was a message written in the language of pure potential. Humanity wasn't just showing its capabilities, it was fundamentally challenging the Concordance's entire understanding of technological conflict and power dynamics. Dr. Rachel Henderson, watching from the research facility, understood the profound psychological impact. This wasn't just a military demonstration, it was a complete reimagining of technological warfare. "They didn't defeat us," she whispered to her colleagues. "They showed us how completely they could defeat us if they chose to." The quantum adaptive communication systems of the Defiance continued to pulse with an almost living intelligence. Each signal, each technological intervention, was a statement. Humanity had arrived, and the rules of galactic engagement were about to be rewritten. The universe held its collective breath, processing the magnitude of what had just occurred. The Central Concordance Assembly Hall erupted into chaos. Holographic projections flickered with unprecedented intensity as representatives from hundreds of galactic civilizations processed the unthinkable. A single human vessel had systematically dismantled the most advanced defensive squadron in known space, without firing a single destructive weapon. High Counselor Zrenax, a diplomatic veteran whose career spanned 3 centuries, struggled to maintain composure. His translucent neural tendrils, typically a symbol of calm deliberation, now writhed with barely contained anxiety. Centuries of carefully constructed galactic hierarchy trembled on the brink of complete dissolution. "We cannot allow a single species to destabilize decades of peaceful governance," argued Representative Cathal of the Viridian Compact, his multifaceted communication arrays broadcasting a mixture of fear and aggressive posturing. "The human demonstration must be met with immediate and decisive action." Opposing voices emerged from unexpected quarters. The quantum consensus, a scientifically advanced civilization known for measured responses, presented a different perspective. "This isn't a threat," their lead representative explained. "This is a fundamental technological paradigm shift." Embedded communication networks carried whispers of panic. The human vessel hadn't just demonstrated technological superiority. It had revealed the fundamental fragility of the Concordance's established power structures. Dr. Ilona Kovacs, watching the proceedings from the Concordance Research Facility, understood the deeper implications. Human technological development wasn't linear. It was explosive, chaotic, driven by a species that viewed limitations as temporary obstacles to be systematically dismantled. The political factions began to fracture along unexpected lines. The militarist bloc demanded immediate aggressive action. They proposed a coordinated strike against human colonies, a preemptive measure to neutralize what they perceived as an emerging threat. The scientific councils advocated for study and communication. The technological demonstration suggested capabilities far beyond simple military potential. This was a complete reimagining of technological and social development. Diplomatic channels that had remained stable for generations suddenly became unpredictable. Human communication protocols had introduced a level of complexity that existing systems couldn't process. "We are facing more than a technological challenge," High Counselor Zrenax finally announced, his voice carrying the weight of centuries of diplomatic experience. "We are confronting a fundamental reimagining of galactic potential." Captain Michael Armstrong's previous transmission continued to be analyzed. Each data packet was a precision-crafted piece of information warfare, revealing just enough to terrify, without showing all of humanity's capabilities. Jack Rodriguez, a senior strategic analyst, broke down the psychological warfare embedded in the human communication. "Look at how they've structured their information," he explained to a gathering of senior researchers. "Each transmission is designed not just to communicate, but to fundamentally challenge our understanding of technological and social development." The Concordance's internal communication networks began to show signs of strain. Quantum adaptive systems designed to maintain stability were struggling to process the profound implications of human technological potential. Some factions recognized that military action would be tantamount to suicide. The human demonstration hadn't just shown technological capability, it had revealed a level of strategic thinking that made traditional conflict models obsolete. The Defiance remained stationary, a silent monument to humanity's newfound power. Its very existence was a psychological weapon more potent than any physical armament. Dr. Rachel Henderson's research team worked frantically, trying to understand the deeper implications of human technological development. Their studies revealed a species that didn't just develop technology, they transformed entire conceptual frameworks of possibility. They don't see technology as a tool, Henderson explained in an emergency briefing. They see it as a living, adaptive system that reflects their fundamental approach to existence. As the Concordance Assembly continued its heated debates, one thing became increasingly clear. The universe had fundamentally changed. Humanity had arrived, not as a species seeking integration, but as a transformative force that would reshape galactic civilization. The silent thread of the Defiance continued to pulse with an almost living intelligence. Each moment of stillness was a statement, a promise of potential that far exceeded any military demonstration. The galaxy held its breath, waiting to see what would happen next. The historical archives of the Concordance began to unravel the story of humanity, and what they discovered shook the foundations of galactic understanding. Human history was not a smooth progression of peaceful development, but a relentless saga of survival, adaptation, and continuous reinvention. Dr. Marcus Williams, leading the historical research team, stared in awe at the cascading data streams. Each historical record revealed a species that had transformed every challenge into an opportunity for radical innovation. The earliest human records told a story of planetary struggle. Earth, a world of extreme environmental challenges, constant geological instability, and near-constant conflict, had been a crucible of evolutionary and technological adaptation. Where other species might have collapsed, humans had transformed their limitations into strengths. Agricultural collapse had driven the development of molecular-level food production technologies. Environmental challenges had accelerated climate adaptation and terraforming research. Planetary conflicts had become catalysts for unprecedented technological leaps. Look at their medical development, Williams pointed out to his research team. Human medical technology wasn't just about healing. It was about fundamental biological transformation. They had turned genetic research into a tool of species-wide adaptation, developing technologies that could modify human physiology to survive in environments that would kill most other life forms. The economic records were equally shocking. Human economic systems weren't stable structures. They were dynamic, adaptive networks that could completely restructure themselves in response to challenges. Where the Concordance saw economic stability as a goal, humans saw economic systems as living, evolving organisms. Jack Rodriguez, analyzing the economic data, found something profound. They don't just adapt to economic challenges, he explained. They use those challenges as fuel for technological innovation. An economic crisis becomes an opportunity for complete systemic redesign. Military history revealed an even more terrifying narrative. Human conflict wasn't just about territorial expansion. It was a continuous process of technological and strategic innovation. Each war, each conflict, had been a laboratory for developing technologies that pushed the boundaries of possibility. The development of space exploration technologies told a particularly compelling story. While other species had approached space as a carefully managed frontier, humans had treated it as an open challenge to be systematically conquered. Early space missions were less about scientific exploration and more about a fundamental challenge to existing limitations. Each mission was a declaration. Humans would not be constrained by existing understanding of possibility. Dr. Elena Kovacs discovered something even more profound in the psychological profiles. Human innovation wasn't driven by consensus or collective agreement. It emerged from individual creativity, from a cultural approach that celebrated those who could challenge existing understanding. Their greatest innovations, Kovacs reported, often came from individuals working against established understanding. Where we see consensus as strength, they see individual creativity as the primary driver of progress. The technological progression was nothing like the smooth, predictable curves of other species. Human development was explosive, chaotic, a series of revolutionary leaps that seemed to emerge from a fundamental cultural approach that viewed limitations as temporary obstacles. Education records showed a system designed not to create stability, but to encourage constant questioning, innovation, and transformation. Where other species sought to maintain existing knowledge, humans created educational models that celebrated disruption and creative thinking. Survival wasn't just a biological imperative for humans. It was a complex dance of technological, cultural, and individual adaptation. Each challenge was an opportunity, each limitation a potential point of transformation. The research team began to understand something profound. Humanity wasn't just a species. It was a continuous process of reinvention, the living demonstration of the potential for technological and cultural transformation. They don't just develop technology, Dr. Williams whispered, his neural interfaces struggling to process the implications. They fundamentally reimagine the relationship between species, technology, and possibility. The Concordance's understanding of technological and cultural development trembled, preparing for a fundamental transformation. The human narrative was clear. Where other species saw boundaries, humans saw challenges to be systematically dismantled. The diplomatic chamber aboard the Concordance's primary negotiation vessel was unlike any first contact scenario in galactic history. The Concordance delegation expected a military commander. Instead, they encountered Captain Michael Armstrong, a figure who defied every established diplomatic archetype. High Counselor Zrenax approached with centuries of diplomatic experience etched into his neural pathways. His communication tendrils, typically a precise instrument of galactic negotiation, trembled with an unprecedented mixture of anxiety and anticipation. "We wish to understand your intentions," Zrenax began, his multi-tonal communication arrays attempting to project calm. "Your technological demonstration has created significant uncertainty." Armstrong's response was neither aggressive nor submissive. It was something far more dangerous, a precise, calculated invitation to reimagine galactic potential. "We're not here to conquer," he explained. "We're here to transform." The negotiation wasn't a traditional diplomatic exchange. It was a systematic deconstruction of existing galactic governance models. Each statement from Armstrong carried embedded technological and cultural data packets that challenged fundamental understanding of interspecies interaction. Lieutenant Commander Elena Rodriguez managed the communication systems with surgical precision. Every transmission was a multilayered communication, diplomatic language intertwined with technological demonstration, cultural insight embedded within each phrase. The proposed terms were revolutionary. Humanity offered technological exchange, but demanded a complete restructuring of how spacefaring civilizations interacted. It wasn't an ultimatum. It was an invitation to evolution. Jack Harper, monitoring the communication systems, recognized the deeper strategy. "Watch how he's communicating," he explained to the bridge crew. "This isn't just negotiation. It's a comprehensive system redesign." The Concordance delegation found themselves navigating a negotiation framework that defied their most advanced diplomatic algorithms. Armstrong didn't just present options. He systematically dismantled existing conceptual frameworks. Technological exchange proposals went far beyond simple knowledge sharing. Humanity suggested a dynamic, continuously adaptive model of interspecies collaboration. Where the Concordance saw knowledge as a static resource, humans proposed a living, evolving system of mutual transformation. "Your current governance model assumes stability," Armstrong explained. "We see potential in continuous adaptation." Economic collaboration proposals were equally transformative. Humanity suggested breaking down the rigid trade systems that had defined galactic commerce for generations. Their model emphasized dynamic resource allocation, adaptive economic networks that could respond to changing technological and cultural landscapes. Dr. Marcus Williams, observing from the research facility, understood the profound implications. "They're not just proposing an exchange," he reported. "They're suggesting a complete reimagining of interspecies collaboration. Medical technology exchange proposals were particularly shocking. Humanity offered not just technological insights, but a fundamental approach to biological and technological integration that challenged every existing medical paradigm. The negotiation team included unexpected members. Dr. Rachel Henderson, a leading xenotechnological researcher, sat alongside military strategists. Jack Rodriguez provided cultural context. Each team member represented a different approach to potential collaboration. Cultural exchange proposals went beyond traditional diplomatic models. Humanity suggested a framework that celebrated individual creativity, that saw diversity as a fundamental driver of innovation rather than a challenge to be managed. "We don't seek uniformity," Armstrong explained. "We seek potential." The Concordance delegation struggled to process the comprehensive nature of the proposal. This wasn't a traditional first contact scenario. This was a fundamental challenge to how civilizations could interact, collaborate, and evolve. High counselors Renax realized something profound was happening. Humanity wasn't just offering a diplomatic arrangement. They were presenting a completely new model of galactic potential. "You're not asking for permission," Zrenax observed. "You're inviting participation." Armstrong's response was both a promise and a challenge. "The universe is larger than our current understanding. We're here to explore that potential together." The negotiation chamber vibrated with potential. The universe held its breath, waiting to see what would emerge from this unprecedented moment of galactic transformation. The moment of transformation came not with violence, but with a subtle shift in galactic consciousness. The THS Defiance hung in space, not as a weapon of conquest, but as a living symbol of potential. Captain Michael Armstrong watched the holographic displays that mapped the cascading changes rippling through galactic systems. This wasn't just a first contact scenario. This was a fundamental reset of existential understanding. Lieutenant Commander Elena Rodriguez managed the communication networks with a precision that bordered on art. Each transmission was a carefully crafted invitation to evolution, a challenge disguised as an opportunity. The Concordance's established power structures began to crumble not from external pressure, but from internal realization. Centuries of carefully maintained stability revealed themselves as systematic limitations. Where previous generations taught protection, humanity saw stagnation. Dr. Rachel Henderson's research team documented the transformation in real time. Human technological and cultural approaches weren't just different. They were fundamentally revolutionary. Each system, each interaction, became an opportunity for comprehensive reimagining. "We are not conquerors," Armstrong had explained during the final negotiation. "We are catalysts." The transformation touched every aspect of galactic civilization. Technological development shifted from consensus-driven incremental progress to dynamic, adaptive innovation. Research models that had remained unchanged for generations suddenly became living, breathing systems of continuous reinvention. Economic frameworks dissolved rigid trade restrictions. Resource allocation became a dynamic process, with individual creativity celebrated as the primary driver of progress. Where the Concordance saw stability, humans introduced potential. Educational systems underwent complete restructuring. Learning was no longer about preserving existing knowledge, but about creating frameworks for continuous adaptation. Every challenge became an opportunity for comprehensive transformation. Medical technologies evolved beyond simple healing. Biological understanding became a dynamic process of continuous adaptation. Species began to see their physical forms not as fixed states, but as potentially malleable systems. Jack Harper, analyzing the broader implications, understood the deeper strategy. "It's not about conquest," he explained to the bridge crew. "It's about introducing a fundamental approach to existence." The galactic communication networks began to pulse with a new kind of energy. Information wasn't just shared. It was transformed, reimagined, continuously adapted. Cultural exchange programs emerged that celebrated individual creativity. Differences were no longer seen as challenges to be managed, but as potential sources of innovative breakthrough. Dr. Marcus Williams tracked the psychological impact. Species that had existed in carefully managed isolation began to interact in ways that challenged every previous understanding of interspecies collaboration. The Defiance remained a silent monument to this transformation. Its very existence was a continuous demonstration of potential, a living example of what could emerge when limitations were seen as opportunities. High Counselor Renax, who had initially viewed humanity as a potential threat, now understood the deeper significance. "They haven't conquered us," he explained in a historic address. "They've invited us to reimagine ourselves." Space exploration models transformed. Where previous generations saw the universe as a territory to be managed, humans introduced a framework of continuous discovery. Each unknown became an invitation, each challenge a potential breakthrough. The psychological impact was profound. Species that had existed in careful isolation began to see themselves not as fixed entities, but as potential systems of continuous adaptation. Jack Rodriguez, analyzing the broader cultural shifts, recognized something fundamental. "We're not just changing how civilizations interact," he observed. "We're changing how species understand their own potential." Armstrong's final transmission to the Concordance Assembly captured the essence of this transformation. "We are here not to lead, but to demonstrate, not to conquer, but to invite. The universe is larger than our current understanding. Our greatest potential emerges when we see limitations as opportunities." The galaxy held its breath, preparing for a journey of transformation unlike anything in recorded history. Humanity had arrived, and nothing would ever be the same.